It's April 18th, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and welcome to Stanley Turrentine. It's good to see you and hear you in person.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here in Minneapolis. Had a great stay here.
I know that through the years, as I began to look at your chronology and everything, you must have been around 12 or 13 when you began to study the saxophone. Is that true?
That's true. Actually, around 10 years old.
10 years old?
Yeah.
At that time, did jazz touch you, or were you thinking about classical music, or was all kinds of music?
Oh, well, I was really just thinking about jazz because my father was a great fan of Coleman Hawkins, and my father also played the saxophone too. He played with the Savoy Sultans.
I was going to ask you about that, and let's touch on the Savoy Sultans with Al Cooper. Weren't they a marvelous group?
It was a great band, you know. I can remember my father playing, jamming with them, and at the Savoy Bar when he used to sneak me in with him, and that was just a marvelous bunch of musicians, man. That band was just great.
Frightened all the other bands coming on stand.
Any band that came to New York and played at the Savoy, they had to practice a lot before they got up on the bandstand. That was a great band.
Let's go back to Coleman Hawkins for a moment. Oh, you tell our audience what Coleman meant to you, the Bean.
Well, to me, the Bean, Coleman Hawkins, he's the daddy of the tenor saxophone. I was always raised like that because my father, would always play records by Coleman Hawkins when I was coming up, and he was always talking about his tone and his and the way he made statements. What he played always meant something. He didn't just play notes. He played meaning. Played with so much meaning and feeling, and I've always been an admirer of Coleman Hawkins.
Tell me, among those themes that you listened to by Coleman, were there any in particular that just immediately come to mind?
Well, immediately comes Body and Soul. That is a classic, and today it's still a classic. What Coleman Hawkins played on that, it's just a classic. That's all I can say about it. It was just remarkable what he did on that with that song.
Did you emulate that and practice on that Body and Soul as an exercise?
I certainly did. I really did. I tried to emulate him, and he was one of the guys I used to try to play like when I first started playing.
And as you began to evaluate his style and study it, what did you discover?
Well, I just found out how the individuality, and I wanted to have some kind of individuality in my playing like he had, and I'm still working at that. I think I have a style, but his style was just remarkable. It's just like he was just blessed by God to say, "Hey, man, you play this way. Nobody plays like Coleman Hawkins."
Well, you're off in a different direction with that sweet, warm, sometimes tenderness, yet it has an intensity.
Well, thank you very much. That's one thing my father tried to instill in me is about sound and feeling and dynamics and how to play a note. When I was speaking earlier about making a statement instead of just playing notes, because like Lester Young, who was another one of my idols, he used to play one note and it would just put chills to you. And that's what I try to keep in mind about sound, feeling, and emotion, because that's actually what we're out here selling, you don't have to be a Juilliard graduate to know whether somebody's playing with feeling or sound or emotion or intensity, as you put it.
Stanley Turrentine, is that your message?
Well, right. Yeah, well, that's one of them. I got quite some more, too, but that's really what I mean. It's just great to be playing, man, and I have a lot of nice guys that I'm working with, I just came from Japan working with Michael Brecker and who else? Ernie Watts and Bill Evans. We call it Saxophone Workshop. And we recorded it. We recorded in Japan. I don't know whether it's released over here, what a marvelous time. And I've just been having good projects lately to be, working with Bobby Lyle, uh, working with the school system in Maryland where I live now. And it's just been great. And to come to Minneapolis to play here at this beautiful, marvelous club, man, and good sound and good treatment. The whole thing is just great here. I just like to say thank God for being able to in a position to be able to continue to play.
Stanley Turrentine, since Bobby Lyle comes from this territory, city of Minneapolis and St. Paul, you might just give us some insight. That Blue Note EMI project which you produced is a interesting collaboration between your compositions and his and a couple of other writers. For Bobby, it must have been a thrill.
Well, I know it was a thrill for me because Bobby's such a beautiful person to work with, and he gives you 150%. And he produced the album, and it was just a great thing. I've heard Bobby, I've heard about Bobby, but I had never met him, and because when we were out in California, I was auditioning, like producers, and he came by, and right away I said, okay, that's it. This is the guy. And he's such a marvelous person and a great musician. I mean, I don't have enough adjectives to say about it. He's just a great guy. And I really enjoyed it.
Stanley Turrentine, as we begin this entry in the 1990s, and looking backward as well as forward, but as you plan your music for your audiences, what do you see and what do you hear as we swing into this last decade of the 90s?
Well, I think that we're not going to forget the past, and I think the new technology is going to just help. We're going to collaborate the old with the new, and I think it can be done in a real fashion that's going to really mean something to people who listen to the music. And I think it's going to be a good decade.
What must be preserved?
Our heritage, the black music, first of all, should be. That's why I'm trying to do seminars and workshops with the kids in the inner city neighborhoods. I've been going to I just left Chicago before I came here, and I went to DeSable High School. I went to South Shore. I went to Martin Luther King, and just to talk to the kids about that, not to put down Michael Jackson and the rest of that kind of music, but also to try to listen to the past masters, that there's a lot of other music that is their heritage that they should be able to recognize. And I think once they listen to it, and I've seen once they listen to the music, they really like it, and they start getting interested in it, and didn't even know that it was their own heritage. I'm talking about just the black music, and it should be. They should try to preserve it and learn a lot about it.
Well, certainly with DeSable High School in Chicago and Cass Tech in Detroit and in Pittsburgh, there are schools that have such remarkable heroes and graduates.
That's right. The alumni, just like in DeSable, Gene Ammons, Nat King Cole, in Pittsburgh, Ray Brown, Billy Eckstine, Art Blakey, Kenny Clark, Earl Garner. I mean, we can just go on. And I don't think they should be ever forgotten, because they are the ones that are the pioneers of the music, and they played a very important part of where the music is now and where it will be. I always say this: if you don't know where you've been, you probably won't know where you're going. So I always like to try to tell the kids, to try to listen to something else other than what is the top 40 on the radio. I'm not putting the top 40 down either. That pays the bills for a lot of people, and me too. But there's also the other part of the music that we should try to preserve, which is ours.
Have you any thoughts about what will help jazz move forward in the future here, say from the standpoint of media, whether it be new technology, the way radio is programmed, television.
All those things that you mentioned should be done all over the country, I think, because the media does play an important part. If we can get more exposure on the radio, like let's say in TV and other means of the media, then I think it would be a better understanding of how great this music is. Proper marketing by record companies, and I think that it's a valid thing to do, because it is America's only culture that they can offer the world, and it seems to be the lowest form of art form on the globe. I mean, in the United States.
Lowest in priority.
That's what I mean, exactly. So I think that with the cooperation of the media and but I see a lot of kids are changing it. They're changing. I see a lot of positive kids. Their attitudes are totally changing. They want to find out what's happening with the music, and that's very gratifying to me to see that.
For you personally, Stanley Turrentine, what's your agenda?
Well, first of all, to stay healthy. That's the first thing. To stay healthy and see what God's will is for me, which way He wants me to go musically, and just continue to hopefully to continue to play music.
Stanley Turrentine, a pleasure to catch you between sets here at the Dakota, Bandana Square, Energy Park, St. Paul, Minnesota. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.